Hi there, Victor Pross speaking to you, anarchist artist. Today I'd like to talk about an experience that Mr. Christopher Greene had with a TSA agent. And Christopher Greene, just to let you know, is the host of Greenwave Radio. He is a small government constitutionalist, minarchist kind of guy. And he had a particularly horrendous experience with a TSA agent. Christopher Greene, I give all kudos to this guy because he is alerting people to the certain corruptions and erosions and evils that the government is inflicting on the American people. He is very educated, very informed, and we have to give him kudos for stepping up to the plate and taking on the Leviathan to a certain extent, that he isn't trying to inform people of the economic corruptions that are taking place. He is not necessarily a philosophical a kind of guy, but he's very informed of economics, and a very brave person who has, like a lot of other people, whether they be minarchists or anarchists, are taking advantage of the alternative media and has created an outlet and a platform on which he is communicates his message and also educates people about certain economic factors and what's taking place within the realm of politics. Now, he had a very horrendous experience with a TSA agent, that as I mentioned, and I'd like for you to hear his own words. I'm just going to play the audio, and I'll just play a quick snippet of him communicating in his own words the experience that he underwent. And then I'd like to say a few words just after that. So I'll keep the visual on me, but we'll pass over the audio to Mr. Christopher Greene himself. Listen to this, it's very interesting.
Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Greene. Hey, I just got off a flight of Ontario Airport, and it was really quite humiliating. Horrifying, really. We read about these stories all the time. But I was yelled at by a TSA agent, a black guy, who yelled at me and said, "Hey, do you have everything out of your pocket, sir?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And he said, "Well, I know you don't, so, because you got a ticket poking out of your pocket." And so, yelled at me, then forced me against my will. Again, there isn't an option in America anymore. There's not an option to say, "Hey, I opt out of a naked body scanner." They naked body scanned my ass so that they could take a picture of my dick and log it into a federal database. And yet it's amazing, it's horrifying, that the American sheeple actually think it's okay. They actually agree with their rapists now. They were willing to objectify their dick on camera, and if it's not their dick, their vaginas, because we're reading about this all the time now. Women are being sent through these body scanners, once, twice, 3 times, so the TSA agents can just goggle at them and go, "Oh, nice tits, nice vagina, let's send her through again." These people with barely a high school education. So it's amazing, it's horrifying that we allow our federal government, who tell us now that we need pictures of our dicks and vaginas taken so that we can prevent a terror strike from Al-Qaeda. Like, Al-Qaeda lives in my dick or on my ass. What's next? Are they going to start anal probing us and looking at our intestinal walls, our intestinal tract, to see if bin Laden lives in my ass? I mean...
Okay, that's enough. So you can tell that Mr. Christopher Greene is quite outraged and pissed off, and I can complete sympathy for the guy. Everything that he's been reporting about has always come from an ivory tower, from the foggy banks of academia, and but here's a down-to-earth, concrete, living example of his experience with the state. And it's very interesting how he mentioned that the injustice from which his outrage springs from, the injustice of being forced to do something against his will. His person was violated, and he was forced by violence, or the initiation of violence, to do something against his will. Okay, now keep in mind that Mr. Christopher Greene, he is a small government advocate, he is a minarchist, and what I have to say again and again and again, not only to Christopher Greene, but to all those other people who might be sitting on the fence on this issue, that the state is violence against your will. That is the state. That is the government. The government is a monopolized, institutionalized violence at the core. That is the essence of the state. Initiatory violence and force is how the state was established. That is how the state is maintained. That is inherent in the definition of the state is initiatory force. Initiatory violence against your will. Mr. Christopher Greene, you just got a concrete, living, down-to-earth, out of the academic ivory tower example of the state in action. Okay, it's not as if you didn't experience another concrete form, such as the taxes that you pay, but perhaps this specific experience had a little bit more verboseness to it because of its immediateness, its the in-your-face quality of it. Now, when I say that the state is violence, and the government is violence, that's exactly what I mean. I mean, all you have to do is a basic history check. All you have to do is look the world over globally, and you'll find that all the different types of government throughout all time, 6,000 years plus, that wherever you've had this phenomena called government or states, you'll find that that's what they all have in common. That's what makes a definition of the state. They all have violence at the epicenter as the essence of the definition, right at the core of it. It doesn't matter if we're talking about fascists, communists, democracies, republic, socialists, plutocracies, whatever, all the different types of governments. They're encapsulated, all those different types of governments, into a phenomena called the state. It could be theocracy, or it could be kings, it could be presidents, prime ministers. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Throughout all time, Christopher, anywhere, globally in the world, you have the phenomena of violence at the epicenter. You have a monopolization on the initiatory use of force. That is a definition of the state. Now, the reason why I'm placing a great deal of stress upon this, because if you are outraged at the very idea of being forced to do something against your will, then how is it that you can support the state, the government, in the sense that we need such an institution? I mean, we're not I know that you're against what's happening today, and the corruption and the erosion and the plundering and the murder. You're speaking against that because it's become so much more brazen. But I'm trying to tell you that it has always been there. It has always been there. Okay, that is the state. I don't see how you cannot see that. You are too intelligent. You are too educated not to connect the dots, to put this all together. I mean, you seem to go on as if what's taking place now that calls you up to arms to speak out on this issue, as if all of the unraveling began with the election of George W. Bush, which culminated in 2008, and being carried over now with the election of Obama, as if prior to all that everything was hunky-dory. I mean, it's like, come on, man, you got an education, okay? The erosion and the degradation and the financial pilfering and the murders have begun long ago. Okay, we don't even have to talk about the creation of the Federal Reserve. There's all types of instances, whether it be the violation of civil liberties, the draft, military conscription, the Great Depression, etc. It just goes on and on. We can see that this institution called the state is a cancer on society. It has always been. Give me one instance, please, just give me one instance where this institution has been of service to humanity. How is it that the initiatory use of violence, masquerading as our benefactors and friends, has done anything good? What instance in history has that been the case? Now you take the you do take the American phenomena, the American experiment, the Constitution. All that's great in academia and on paper. And but once you carry that over, you take that document, which sounds like a very agreeable document on paper, and if we lived in a voluntary society, perhaps some of its contents could be very much useful, could be edifying, could be enlightening, could be a compass. But once you take that Constitution and the Bill of Rights and whatnot, and you take it and you, as an ethic, and you put it within the epicenter of this phenomena called the state, well, it doesn't matter what the contents of the Constitution is. Once you've put it in the hands of the state, and the state being a small cadre of people who have arrogated to themselves the moral and legal right to initiate force, everything will go screwy, because when you give a small handful of people that kind of power, it's going to corrupt them. The state is a corrupting influence. There is nobody who's wise enough or good enough to have that kind of power without its erosion within the soul of human beings. And you'll notice that the state is a magnet for evil people. Okay, of course, it's like, and it's amazing too to think of the Constitution, where one pitfall of it though, that it's not the Constitution wasn't created so much as to protect the citizenry from each other, but the Constitution was designed in such a way, with the main focus being to keep the government in check. I mean, the government has always been a predatory entity, and here we have these brilliant thinkers called the Founding Fathers, and their whole attempt was to keep not the people in check, it's like, but to keep the government in check, because that's where the great danger is. Well, obviously it failed. It failed. Okay, so, and all of the state propaganda about the word anarchy too, by the way, I mean, we know that the state perpetuates itself and maintains its power not only by physical force, but a constant bombardment and stream of propaganda to keep it afloat. It inculcates fear. It has to be a constant stream of propaganda and fear-mongering to keep it aloft. Okay, yesterday it was beware the communists. There's a communist infiltrating the media. They have to set up the un-American activities. There's a communist in your bed, in your under the bed. There's a communist infiltrating the media, the schools. Beware the communists. Of course, communism is a wretched ideology, of course, though. But please. I mean, but the whole thing was to scare the bejeebus out of people, for Christ's sakes, in the 50s and the 60s, and prior to that, I think too, in the 1940s. Communists. So today it's beware the terrorists. Oh, the terrorists, the towel heads. Look out for the terror. But the constant propaganda, though, was to keep people in a perpetual state of fear. Was not only communists and terrorists, but also each other, the citizens. They have turned the citizens against each other, that without the state, without the government, without these sociopaths to take the helm of monopolized, institutionalized force, that without them, we would all be a pack of ravenous wolves at each other's throats. Okay, it would be murder and plunder and destruction worldwide, and that's why you have this whole thing about a centrally planned economy, because they're there to keep everything in order, to keep everything in check, otherwise it would start to unravel without them. But all they've proven to be is just a cancer on society. The government has no power other than the citizens. It's the citizens that keep everything in order and aloft, creating markets and trading and voluntary with one another. And it's the state that has no source of revenue beyond what it pilfers and expropriates from the citizenry. The citizenry are the people who are actually producing things that keeps the state possible. There is no state without society. Society is not the state. Okay, society came first. Okay, society would operate without a state. Okay, and as to the issues of a stateless society and how it would operate, there's tons of articles and books, and I'm going to link some of those sources within the body of this YouTube, because you really have to educate yourself on this matter. You can't keep on going on using the word anarchy as if it was a synonym or interchangeable with the word chaos. that is nothing more than state ruling elite propaganda. That's my message telling you that today, okay? For God's sakes, all this information is a click away, and you're an extremely intelligent, smart guy. I'm sure you can piece all of it together in your head. It's one thing to disagree with a certain philosophy, with certain ideas, and anarchism is a definite school of ideas, okay? It doesn't, I tried to explain to you, it's not some pop culture artifact, Johnny Rotten throwing trash cans through windows, okay? It's an actual school of thought. It's one thing to disagree with the school of thought. It's another thing to be ignorant of it. And you are ignorant of it. I say that with all due respect. You just don't know what you're talking about. You have all the information before you to give yourself at least a crash course, cursory look into it to see what the issues are about. Some of the questions and challenges that the anarchist philosophy does have. What about violent crimes? What about violent crimes? What about currency? Okay, what about civil disputes, etc., contractual arrangements? All of those are legitimate questions. The schooling of children, the poor, the aged, etc. All these issues have been dealt with. So anyway, that's all I want to say for now. It's Victor Pross, anarchist artist, signing out. Pop goes the culture.